If you think about an ice cream cone, we can just have the cone, just have the wafer, or we can add the ice cream and we can add the sprinkles and we can add the sauce and we can add the flake and whatever else we want on it. And that's all wonderful. But in order for us to get to the fancy sprinkles and the sauce and everything else, we need to have the wafer or the cone or whatever you want to refer to it as. We need to have that bit first. And so when we start to build in those self-care practices, it's always about adding to what we're already doing.
Welcome to Radiant Mom Rising. Get ready to be inspired, empowered, and uplifted. I'm your host, Mary Dibble, and in each episode, we dive into amazing stories, insights, and conversations that help moms like you chase your dreams and embrace your worth. Let's rise and shine together. Mamas, welcome to another episode of Radiant Mom Rising. Today we're talking about something I know many of us struggle with, taking time for ourselves. Between raising our kids, handling daily responsibilities, and trying to grow as individuals, it's so easy to put our needs last. But here's the thing. You deserve care too. In this episode, me and special guest Emma Benyon explore practical, no-fuss self-care tips that fit into a busy mom's life. Emma is a self-care and motherhood coach and educator, supporting busy moms who are juggling the school run with a job and building a business with the tools to be less overwhelmed and have more balance, energy, and clarity. Emma is a mom to a 6-year-old and a qualified NLP, MBIT, and practical magic coach and full-time post-16 educator. She is the editor of Positive Wellbeing Design for Moms and host of the Self-Care and Motherhood Edit podcast. Her passion is to support busy moms to have more time and energy for all the things they enjoy and to have the tools to support and nurture themselves. If you're ready to feel more energized, grounded, and supported, then this one's for you. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Radiant Mom Rising podcast. I'm here with Emma. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, and I'm excited to have you here today and for you to share your story. So let's get started with you introducing yourself, letting us know who you are, what you do, and then we'll go into your story of what led you to that.
Amazing. So I'm Emma. I'm a self-care and motherhood coach and educator for busy moms who are juggling all the things with school run, full-time job or part-time job, and also running a business. And I support them with the tools to help them feel less overwhelmed and have more balance, more clarity, build a beautiful self-care toolkit so that they can support themselves and ultimately then support those around them as well. I'm a mum to a 6-year-old. I'm also a full-time post-16 teacher and a qualified coach.
I love it. So many things. So tell us a little bit about your journey with this and what you've experienced that led you to want to also coach and help moms in this way.
Yeah, of course. So I had my daughter just over 6 years ago. And I guess I'm not going to be alone when I say that that was a massive shock to the system. And really, I guess there's no manual, is there? You can read as many books as you want. And actually, I didn't read any books. Um, Kind of went into it probably quite naively and had always worked, was quite career driven and, was moving up, I guess, that kind of management. I was running programs, I was running some courses where I worked at college. And so was really quite motivated and driven. And then this little bundle of Isabella arrives and doesn't want to sleep, doesn't want to eat and, feed and all this. And I guess it was just kind of a massive, like, oh my gosh, now I've got this little person to care for. And ultimately, I'd run a business previous. So my background is in the creative industries, trained photographer and very much, graphic designer, those sorts of things. And I guess when you've got that kind of like, is it more of a need? It's like it's an outlet of kind of like, I need to go and do something creative. And so there was this niggle kind of like, I need to do something. So I'd run a business previously that was a creative business, but I'd made the decision actually once I'd had a baby, this is before she arrived, I made the decision that actually I wasn't going to do that anymore. Like I was quite happy just to focus on my daughter, focus on my career when I eventually went back to work. And then that niggle of like, I need to do something, like there's something missing here in there. And I was having, a really tough time in that transition, eventually diagnosed with postnatal depression within that kind of first 5 months of her being born. But ultimately, like I need to just find this thing for me that is gonna give me that motivation. It's gonna give me that focus. And so when she was 4 weeks old, I set up my business. Very different to how it is now, with a lot of products. And I guess people listening are like, how did you do that with a 4-week-old baby? Actually, it was just a lot of being sat in bed or on the sofa, binge watching telly and trying to get her to sleep while I would design and, learn all of this stuff that, I needed to know to run a business in a different way to how I'd done previously. And that business very much focused on my journey in motherhood and how I'd experienced it. And that's where it came from, in terms of it being very much a space where I felt like my voice wasn't heard. And I'd had a really difficult pregnancy. And then you're given this baby, aren't you? And everybody's like, how's baby? And everything becomes like baby this, baby that, and what's baby wearing? And I was like, but I'm still here. Like, I'm still a person. Like, can someone talk to me? Like, so what about me? What about me? Like, it's like, I'm here. Like, I've not disappeared. And I remember very much feeling like my voice, it wasn't heard. And so I started to create a community of sharing those stories and sharing other mums' voices through what I'd started to do. Because I'd also found it very difficult to find anything online. And it's very, very, very different now. People like what we're doing and, other people who are really kind of sharing in that space of this is what it's like to be a mom. This is the real version of being a mom. This is what it's like. And everybody's story is different. And this works for me and that might work for you. But ultimately you might, try this, try that, see what happens, see what works. But when my daughter was born, I wasn't finding that space. And maybe I was completely just looking in the wrong place. But I think social media now is very different in terms of people sharing those stories than it was 6 years ago. And kind of all I could find with this, were mums who looked incredible and had had a great birth and baby was doing all of the things that, sleeping, they were feeding and et cetera, et cetera. And that was not my experience at all. And so I guess I created that space for other mums who, like me, were not finding kind of those spaces. And so I did all of this stuff, created loads of products, and then launched the magazine, so the Positive Wellbeing Zine for Mums. And again, that was very much like, let's share these stories and let's share things that are relevant for mums. Like there was nothing in there about babies. Like everything had a focus on mum and self-care and well-being and creativity. And that magazine was very much like, well, let's see, for me, let's see if I can do that. Let's see actually if I can publish a magazine and I can design it and let's get it printed and let's see what happens. And 19 issues later, like it's still a thing, which is just like amazing.
Yeah.
It's changed its format and it's now just a digital only magazine. And actually that's kind of had, pause pressed on it for now because I'm focusing on other things, and that's okay because ultimately, there's 19 wonderful resources there for mums to access digitally whenever they want. And I guess that story of, and that journey that I was on, very much led me, as it does with so many mums, into a space where actually I was changing and I was growing and I was developing into this person who I am today. And obviously there's still more growing and developing to do because we never stop growing and learning and, you know, and that person who started the business is very, very different to the person now who is talking to you. And that transition, went from somebody who how old would I have been? Maybe 29, 28, 29 when I got my nose pierced. And that was something I always wanted to do when I was 16. I just didn't do it. I was terrified. And actually, it led me to a space of someone who is so much more confident in how she shows up. And ultimately, that for me is like the biggest part of that journey. You grow a baby and you watch a child grow and develop. You might start a business and you watch that grow and develop. But ultimately, alongside all of that, as a mom, you're also growing and developing and you change, and what you need changes, what you want changes. And that's the space that I've really eased into now, that actually, this is actually who I am. And that's a much better version of the person I was 6, 7 years ago. That journey of working with coaches and that self-development ultimately led me to, as well as my teaching career, I've been teaching for 10 years now, and how I was supporting mums through the business originally, led me to a space of, actually, I was like, well, I want to do this for other people. Like, the journey that I've been on and the transformation that I've had, ultimately, if somebody also wants to have that transformation and have that change and have that, growth in confidence and how she dresses and et cetera, like, I would love to give that to somebody else too. And I guess share the things that I've learned on my journey, but in a way that actually is supportive, and I guess just help mums be the best that they possibly can, because, we're still a person, we're still here,
Yes.
we still matter. And that's really led me to where I am now. And ultimately, with being a self-care coach, which I often say I hate that word, like, I wish there was another word, because it actually, you've got to wade through so much stuff, haven't you, before you even are like, really get to that point of, I can care for myself with this information and understanding that I have of actually what it is, not all the, you should be doing this, or you need to be doing this, or it needs to be this amount of time. And so having those skills and the kind of awareness and, I guess, passion for helping mums develop that toolkit of practices that is going to help them care for themselves,
Yes.
that's the bit that is going to support them on that transformational journey.
Absolutely. I mean, it's extremely crucial, and you're right. So many people don't understand the importance of that, and
Mm,
and through the whole journey, especially in your when it comes to your business, because if you're not taking care of yourself, then think about the way you're showing up, what energy you're bringing to the
mm,
table when you're going out there, and you're a lot of times
yeah.
hindering yourself from really receiving and allowing
Mm,
yourself to receive the blessings and the abundance that you're looking for all along. And it's something that you don't think is as simple as it can be, because nothing's ever really, really simple. My goodness, taking care of ourselves as a mom, it's one of the hardest things that I personally have ever experienced. Like, I didn't even realize just how neglectful of myself that I was for
mm,
so long, because I was so focused on everybody else, my job,
mm,
my kids, taking care of the house, taking care of this and that one. I thought that that was what being a mom and being a wife meant. It was
mhm,
taking care of everybody else. I didn't realize the importance of really taking care of me first in order to take care of everything else in a better way for
mhm.
everybody. And Lord, I didn't like the person, the mom that I was back then, and still work to even today to always be mindful of and better about, because I want to lead by example. I really believe in that. So I actually think it's fantastic that you focus on the self-care, but I understand how you could feel like that just saying it like that doesn't
Yeah.
seem the conviction of it kind of thing. But and you know what? What you've proven too is that you can change it up. You don't have to always call
Mm,
yourself as, if you feel it in your soul in the end that, yeah, I don't want to consider or label myself or identify as the self-care coach. There's always other ways, because
mhm,
ultimately how you do the process isn't always as important of just the outcome and the results that you're going to bring those clients to. Yeah, I think that's incredible though. I love, love, love to keep meeting people like this and hearing your stories, because it is through our journeys, it's through our experiences that leads us down these roads. And it's so neat to see how different we become from when we
mm,
started. And isn't it the starting part? I feel like that's something I would like to reflect on. And from what you are seeing with the clients you work with, and just even in your own experience, for me, it's always the beginning stage is the starting point. That, of course, is one of the greatest challenges.
mm.
What is something that you would motivate or share that would help somebody in that stage of feeling like, I have no idea what I'm doing? How do I get going with this? What's the piece of advice you'd give them?
So I think it's always, it's not ever simple, but we need to start simple. And if you think about an ice cream cone, we can just have the cone, just have the wafer, or we can add the ice cream and we can add the sprinkles and we can add the sauce and we can add the flake and whatever else we want on it. And that's all wonderful. But in order for us to get to the fancy sprinkles and the sauce and everything else, we need to have the wafer or the cone or whatever you want to refer to it as. We need to have that bit first. And so when we start to build in those self-care practices, it's always about adding to what we're already doing. So if we do the washing at home and that's part of what we do, and so we put the washing on and then we hang it up and we fold it and we've got maybe a bit of a system for that, let's put some music on while we do that, or a podcast, or an audiobook. And when you do that, just notice the difference that doing that makes, because often I think we're so, used to rushing around, aren't we? Doing all these 500 things that we need to do every day. And what we're not doing is adding in those little bits that would actually probably make those things more fun or more easy, or add in that self-care practice. So, it doesn't have to be doing the washing. It could be, in a morning, me and my daughter have started to listen to just some chill music as we get ready. And that completely changes kind of how we start our day. And it's just so simple, isn't it? I'm just going to put the music on for half an hour before we leave the house, just get ready. And it's so much more chill than it is if there's no music on. In the car, putting on that playlist, it might be after you've dropped the kids off at school and maybe you're driving to work or maybe you're driving home or you're doing whatever the next part of, your day looks like. Put on that music, put it on loud and just sing whatever it is that you need to do in the car that is, ultimately going to raise your energy level, because that's what we're wanting to do with self-care, and it might be something that actually slows us down, but ultimately we're still raising those energy levels. So we think about ourselves as having an energy fuel tank, like, our car has if we fill it with petrol or diesel, or when we plug our phone in or our laptop or whatever to charge it. Ultimately, we're doing the same thing for ourselves. So we have that kind of visual of, I'm going to keep topping myself up. So actually, my energy fuel tank is really full. So then when I have those times when, maybe I'm exhausted or the kids are, not doing what I'd like them to do, or people are arguing or fighting or whatever happened, the school rush is an absolute rush, perhaps it's more chaotic than it normally is. I've got the resource bank there to support me through that process, however that looks. So it really is about starting with something super simple. And often that can be, perhaps something that we used to really enjoy before we became a parent. And actually, using one of those things, but maybe changing it up. So a lot of my clients used to love reading before they became a mum. But ultimately, at this season they're in of their motherhood journey, reading, how they used to read is just not achievable. And so why don't we just put an audiobook on?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's put our headphones in, listen to an audiobook, maybe a little bit before we go to bed. Or, if you're one of those parents who has to sit outside, the room while their kids go to sleep, put the audiobook on then, maybe while the kids are in the bath. Let's use the time that we've already got, that we're already using for other things. Let's add something else into it to develop that self-care toolkit.
Hey, Mama, I want to share something that could truly transform your life: the Mom Biz Mastery course and community. If you're a mom with dreams of starting a business or already juggling your business with the demands of family life, I see you. I know the struggles, the school runs, endless to-do lists, and those stolen moments to work on your passion. It's overwhelming, and some days it feels like you're constantly pulled between your family and your dreams. But here's the thing, you don't have to do this alone. Mom Biz Mastery was created to help you reclaim time for yourself while building a business that lights you up without burning out. It's packed with practical, actionable strategies tailored to your busy life. Whether you're still figuring things out or ready to take your business to the next level, this course is your step-by-step guide. And you won't just be going through this journey solo. You'll be part of a powerful community of moms who get it, with expert coaching, real advice, and connections that fit into your life. you'll have the support you need to thrive. You deserve this, mama. You deserve to chase your dreams and build a life and business you love. Click the link in the show notes or reach out to me for a free consultation. Let's chat and see if this is the right fit for you. Your dreams are possible, and I'm here to help make them a reality. That's very powerful and in an awesome way, and in an absolutely realistic way of
Mhm.
getting started. So wonderful. I thank you for sharing that, because I actually do that a lot and I love it. Like, even with my day job, I'm very blessed to work from home. So a lot of times, so I don't fall behind on certain programs that I'm in and the learnings and education, while I'm doing certain tasks, I just plug in and have that. At least I'm listening to it. I'm getting the word. I'm getting all this information. Or, like you say, putting that podcast on. I love listening to podcasts in my car. It's so inspirational. I guess even just going to pick up the kids and back and forth to the banks and things that I have to do. I love it so much, getting that time to just be fed, just that positivity and that motivation and learning something valuable that I'm just like, oh yes, man, it's not only going to help me, but can help me with my clients, you know? I think that's an incredible way to go about it. I even saw another lady that I have interviewed previously recently started this challenge where it's like a toothbrush challenge where you start doing squats while you're brushing your teeth. I saw it pop up the other day and I thought,
Mhm.
how neat and how realistic is that? Like, we brush our teeth every day. Why not do some squats while we're
Mhm.
doing it, right? We could make that happen. I mean, talk about
Yeah.
a little baby step that can
Mhm.
get you going in a way that's going to better yourself, especially if you're a mom who's not happy with your body after having kids. I mean, that takes time to get back, but it's not impossible, especially if you're willing to put in the work. But so,
Mhm.
not everybody has the time, like you say, to put in, hours a day or all the time kind of exercise, but there's still small exercises that can make a big difference.
Mhm.
So I've always been an advocate of that. Like, 'cause that is a lot of what I teach in my programs and in my coaching is the baby steps. Like, don't feel like you have to do it all like we always do as moms. Don't you feel like that sometimes? Like, we have to do it all now. We have to, get all this stuff. We have to take everything on, take the world and put it on our shoulders. It's like, no, we don't
Mhm.
have to do it that way. It's okay to just be where you're at.
Mhm.
And just find it in those little moments, and wherever you can, something that you can do towards creating that vision that you have for your future, just
Mhm.
getting that step, a little bit closer to that. Yeah, and with your journey, I'm sure you've had many ups and downs as a mom, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's working. Would you share a little bit about that and some of the things that you were able to do in those times of what I like to call dips, where things
Mm.
kind of didn't really go as planned, or you were having those hard times? What were some of the things that you did to help kind of pull you through that?
My gosh, there's been so many dips.
And there's always gonna be, right? That's
There's
just part of
always
life.
gonna be
Yeah.
dips. There's absolutely
Yeah.
always gonna be dips. And I think for me, in those early days when I was running the business, like I felt like I had to show up all of the time. Like even if I was poorly, even if, work was really busy or there was other things going on, maybe, I'd gone on holiday for a couple of days or whatever. I always felt like I had to show up and be present all of the time. And actually, what I've eased into now is that it's okay to just take a bit of time off. It's okay to press pause on some projects and pick them up later because actually pressing pause isn't well, that's it, that's done with, I can't do it anymore. Actually, it's an acceptance really of I can't do that right now and that's okay. And I guess also having that acceptance and trust that if people still want that product, still that service when it's not on pause, that they will still be there. And, I guess having those kind of more realistic expectations, I was very, on that hamster wheel of burnout every few months, probably up until about 2.5 years ago, when actually with all the skills I've been learning, with the changes in my life, like I just came to this place of actually having more calmness and ease with where I was at. And that doesn't mean to say that, the overwhelm isn't there sometimes because it is, and that, those stress levels don't get high. And I don't sometimes feel like I am going to burn out. However, I'm coming at it from a different mentality, a different headspace of actually, this is where I am right now. And in a couple of months, that's likely to change. In a year, 2 years, that's probably going to have changed completely. And all of that is okay. But actually, where I am now is okay too, because actually, I'm coming at it from a space of, this is where I am, and that's okay. And if I can't work those hours, or I can't do this, or I can't do that, or I have to turn down that opportunity because of X, Y, or Z, actually, if it's meant for me, it will come back around, or something even better will come.
Mhm.
And I can only do what I have with the resources I have right now. And ultimately, I feel like that makes me a better businesswoman of my business and how I manage my business. But ultimately, then how much I work as well. I used to work all of the time, like every hour. I'd come home and I'd be working on my business, and you know, at a weekend I'd be working on my business. And now actually I'm like, no, these are the 2 nights a week that I will spend on my business, around my daughter, around when I don't have her and she's at a dad's. I will use that time to work on my business, so that when I do have my daughter, when there's other things happening, actually, I am completely present with her. Or if there is stuff I need to do, she knows that I'm not going to be working for hours and hours and hours. And she understands and appreciates that actually, mummy just needs to do this right now, because of, not mummy is working all of the time, because that's just what mummy does.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think, that self-acceptance, that ease, and, you know, just that this is the journey that I'm on right now. This is the path, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and honestly, you're practicing what you preach with that because
Mhm,
you're showing the self-care for yourself and for your family
mhm,
that like mommy knows how to set healthy boundaries. Mommy knows when it's time to focus on something and when it's time to be in the present. And there's nothing like the present moment because, our kids are only going to be young for how long? Like it's going to
mhm,
be I have my oldest just turned 16 and I can't believe I even have a 16-year-old. But it's like I'm like the other day I'm just like, wow, like he's just only a few years away from possibly leaving
mhm,
and going to college, and it's like, yes, I have a 2 and a 4-year-old who are about to be 3 and 5 this year. Ah, but it's like already
mhm,
it's just quickly going by. And the last thing I want is to miss out on those
mhm,
moments and those times with them because mommy's got to work. Mommy's got to do things. And I used to be like that too, especially in the beginning because I felt the same pressure of like, I gotta do all these things. They're telling me that I
mhm,
should do this and I should do that, and that if I'm not doing this, that I don't care about my
mhm,
business, and it was exhausting, and it did burn me out, and I think that it's beautiful when we can kinda realize, "Wait a minute, we're sitting here trying to tell moms to have this self-care and to put their needs and have these boundaries, so why are we not practicing what we
mhm.
what we preach," kinda thing, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what you're doing, and I guarantee you, your whole life is thriving because it's not just about our businesses, it's about our
Mhm,
lives. We're trying to thrive in all areas. We
mhm,
wanna be financially free, but I don't want it at the expense of losing my family over it,
mhm,
of losing my of precious time. But I truly believe that it all can come together and all we can track all of it if you honor and stay aligned and be true to yourself along the way.
mhm.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
and you're living it. You see that, and I can imagine how that strengthened your relationship with your daughter for
Mhm,
sure. And it's going to keep doing that, and it's going to be a
mhm.
great role model for her. And I mean, how is she as far as seeing what you do? Because I know we kind of talked about it briefly before this, but you've been down the road of podcasting.
Mhm.
So how what that experience been like for you with having a daughter?
Do you know what? It's funny you say that, because we were talking about it the other day, and I played one of my episodes,
Yeah.
and she was like, her face just lit up, like mummy's, that's mummy's podcast, and she was just so excited. And I think it's, for me, that journey of the business, the podcast, the magazine, she used to pack orders with me and stick stickers on the envelopes, and she loved being part of it.
Yeah.
And I think sharing those successes with her is, absolutely key. I had an article published in a magazine this at the start of this month, and I ordered her a copy of it. So it came for her because, she's part of that story of where I am now. I was like, look, mummy's in a magazine, and she's looking through and she's, oh my God, mummy, it's you. And
Wow.
it's that for me, it makes, I guess, all the time, all the effort, all kind of the late night, you know, and how now I can work in a way that I want to work.
Yeah.
It makes it all worth it because ultimately she's seeing that and she's like, Mummy, like, look, this is you. And like, when I was selling products, when the ka-ching used to come through from my Etsy shop and she'd be like, yay, Mummy, you've got an order. And like, she knew instantly what that noise meant. And I think the more we can do that as well with our kids, that ultimately, they see the hard work that we're putting in.
Yeah.
And, if I do have to work now when she's there, I'm like, Mummy just has to do this because this is the reason why, this is either a really exciting opportunity for Mummy or, it's just this bit, Mummy just needs to get it finished and that we can do this. And I find having those really open conversations with her about, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, the purpose behind it. And she sees that and she's 6. Obviously, she doesn't understand it fully, but in time,
Still, yeah.
she'll have,
Mhm.
she'll have seen that journey ultimately, which she, inspired. And hopefully she'll see that hard work. She'll see the motivation, the focus and the achievement. And I think as mums, we often, those achievements, whether they're in our business or in our life or, in our, a job, we don't celebrate them enough, do we? We'll celebrate all of those milestones of our kids, but actually, how about our milestones as well?
Mm.
You know, their birthday is as much, about our birthday as it is their day. And I remember her first birthday, my mum got me a present as well. Like, it was like, this is your day too. This is
Oh, I love
part of that, which is, it's beautiful, isn't it? And I think when
it.
we think about it from that perspective of actually you're growing together, aren't you, as a duo of daughter, son, and mum or dad as well. You're growing in that journey together. And I think that allows it to be much more of a kind of, I guess, ease of that journey rather than it being so focused on, the milestones of your kid and less focused on you. If you kind of come from it, I guess, from that more holistic,
Yeah.
view of this is our journey together of life and how we're both going to grow and ultimately, kind of where that leads.
And isn't that such a beautiful journey? And that's
Mhm,
why we do what we do and we advocate as
mhm,
we do because for so many I've seen struggle and like settle in life because it's what they believed was all they'll ever amount to. Like that's
mhm,
all they're ever good for. So I think it's empowering and amazing, so amazing to see how many moms are standing up now and realizing that I matter too and
mhm,
that I can have what I want and I can help my children to also have what they want and
mhm,
show them that through hard work and dedication and believing too, because I think that's a huge
mhm,
part of it that when so many of us just don't have the beliefs that we need in order to attract what we want in life.
mhm,
Definitely guilty of it myself. It was the greatest thing I ever discovered through life coaching was all the limiting beliefs that I had and the things that we even were put into me that I didn't realize were in there
mhm,
in my programming. So it's so nice to be able to finally get that awareness and start being able to decide. I get to
mhm,
decide how I want my life to turn out. I get to decide how I want to respond and be. Yes, do I still mess up because I'm human? Of course. We all do. And then you know what? That's what's so nice. It's like
mhm,
when you get to the point where you stop beating yourself up over those mistakes or beating yourself up because you're not you have moments of going back to your old ways when bad things happen. It's okay though. Like it doesn't mean that you're stuck there. It doesn't mean you have to stay there. It doesn't mean and actually you get better and better at being like, "Oh, I'm doing that again." Now, instead of like just falling trapped into
mhm,
that for weeks on end, now I have the tools and the resources and the community, especially. God, I love the community
mhm,
to help pull me out of that sooner than later and to be stronger for it and
mhm,
grow from it. So I just say I will say this has been the most incredible journey I've been on personally, and I'm so excited to see where it takes all of us in our individual ways. It's neat to see the differences and the similarities of a
mhm,
lot of these things that I hear from other people. What would you say would be one of the best things that you can think about through your journey that has made, I mean, obviously what you kind of just said about your daughter, like I think that really always makes it so great. But through some of the things that you've experienced on your adventures as a business owner, what would you say has been some of like one of the great successes that you have found through some of your trials and errors?
Do you know what? I think still doing it 6 years later is probably the biggest success that actually, despite the changes, despite, the dips and the etc., all the different things that life throws at you, actually, I'm still doing it 6 years later. And that kind of motivation and drive is still there 6 years later. Because that's a massive commitment, isn't it? To
Yeah.
actually do something for that period of time. And I think the success in relation to that, comes from actually that developed confidence in trusting my own abilities. And so it's not a monetary thing. It's not a, awards thing. It is, I guess, how it makes me feel that actually I feel successful because 6 years later, I'm still doing it.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. That is very inspirational. That's awesome. And you are like, you're still just getting started. You got so much more to learn, so
Really?
much more to go. And that's what's so neat. Compared to like where you are now, think
Mhm.
back at how it was in your first year when you started out. And I would love for you to speak to somebody who's in that first year stage of like they're just kind of testing the waters, kinda getting their self out there for the first time. What's a little confidence boost that you would love to provide them to keep going?
I think I would say just trust what your heart is telling you and follow that, challenge yourself, push yourself where you can, and just keep going because that first year I think is ultimately the hardest because you don't really know what you're doing. You're trying to navigate it. The same as when you have a baby. It's the same sort of, you
Mhm.
can relate the two across, can't you? You don't really have a clue what you're doing, and I think just remember that, you're going to develop those skills. It's going to come over time and that confidence will come over time as well. And I think if you can start to build a really good, solid foundation for what you're doing, whatever that is, that's really key. And then develop that confidence, that self belief will come over time and ultimately just keep going.
Yeah, and never give up. Just never give
Yeah.
up. Yeah. Oh, I love it. And have a little compassion, right? I mean, we were really hard on
Absolutely.
ourselves a lot of times. Be compassionate. Like, it's okay. Some of the most incredible people that I have recently been learning from who are so big, major names, and it's like when I hear their stories too of like how they had programs that bombed. They had things that
Hmm.
never no one showed up to, and now they're like you're like, "How does nobody know who you are?" They're big, they're having they're making millions and millions of dollars. They finally, they're just 10 years, down the road. 10 plus years, because they just kept going no matter what. And I hope one of the things that I hope through what we do, and I know you're the same way, is our goal is to help make it fun for you. Because if
Hmm.
you don't find a way to make it fun, you're gonna give up. You're gonna get burnt out because it's just part of the process. And that's why you need the support and the encouragement and the guidance because it does suck trying to go out there and figure it out on your own. It really does. And it's so great to have people who are there to support you and guide you in that way. And on that note, tell us, Emma, where could people find you who would be interested in your services and what you offer?
So you can find me over on my website, which is emmabenyoncoaching.co.uk, or I'm over on Instagram and Facebook at emmabenyon.coach, or you can search for the Self Care and Motherhood Edit podcast too.
Oh, lovely. And of course, we will include all of that in the show notes for you as well for easy access. I love this conversation. I'd love to hear how incredible of a journey you've had so far. And I can't wait to see where you go because I know you're going to just do wonders. Is there any final piece of advice or inspiration you'd love to leave the listeners with from everything we talked about today?
I would say, just ease into things, be kind, be compassionate to yourself, and just keep going one step at a time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Emma, I cannot thank you enough for being part of the show today. I really appreciate your time and your energy and your presence.
Thank you.
I hope you all got some juicy tips to start implementing right away. Here are the key takeaways from today's episode. Motherhood often brings surprises and challenges that you may not be prepared for. Acknowledge that it's okay to feel overwhelmed. You're not alone in this journey. Prioritize yourself. Remember that you are still an individual with needs and desires. It's essential to find your voice and ensure that your own well-being is part of the conversation. Start small. When implementing self-care, begin with simple practices. Small changes like adding music to your daily routines or listening to a podcast while doing chores can significantly uplift your mood and energy. Build your toolkit. Focus on creating a collection of self-care practices that resonate with you. This can include listening to audiobooks, engaging in enjoyable activities, or even incorporating movement into your daily routines. Value your growth. Just as your child grows and evolves, so do you. Embrace the changes you experience and recognize that personal development is a continuous journey. Make time for joy. It's vital to inject moments of joy into your daily life, no matter how small. Whether it's a dance party in your living room or a few quiet minutes for yourself, prioritize activities that bring you happiness. Set realistic expectations. Don't feel pressure to do it all at once. Break down your goals into manageable steps and give yourself permission to take your time. Progress is more important than perfection. Connect with others. Surround yourself with a supportive community. Sharing your experiences and hearing from other moms can help you feel understood and less isolated. Focus on energy management. Think of your energy levels like a fuel tank. Regularly engage in self-care to keep your tank full, which will help you navigate the inevitable ups and downs of motherhood more effectively. Celebrate your journey. Acknowledge your progress and the growth you've experienced. Every small step you take toward caring for yourself is a victory worth celebrating. Be sure to follow Emma and check out all she has to offer to help support you on your journey. Her links are in the show notes. We would greatly appreciate it if you would share this episode with another mom you know could benefit from tuning in, as well as leave us a 5-star rating and let us know what was your favorite takeaway. If you need any support in your journey, as a life coach, I am here to help you. Visit me at marydibblecoaching.com to learn more. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Until next time, much love.